lightweight champion, the one, the only, the notorious Conor McGregor!
Conor McGregor's left-hand shot is the most famous and electrifying weapon in the history of mixed martial arts. And for today's video, we're going to go through some of his most devastating finishes. As always, if you guys enjoy the video, please be sure to let us know by giving it a like and hitting that subscribe button so you don't miss any future uploads. Without further ado, let's get into it. And what better place to begin than with the quickest finish on Conor's record? You'd be forgiven for thinking that his legendary KO of Jose Aldo is the quickest on his resume, but no. That featherweight title finish makes it seem like Conor was taking his time in comparison to the scintillating 4-second knockout of Paddy Doherty on the regional stage in Ireland back in 2011. Looks eerily similar to the Aldo finish though, right? Moving on, we're going to make some room in our video for a knockout that is nothing like what we've come to expect from Conor. You might know this type of brutal elbow finish best from when Travis Browne used them to totally destroy Josh Barnett's mid-takedown attempt back in 2013. But Conor McGregor's elbow KO of Steve O'Keefe actually came a year beforehand. That's one way to defend against a wrestler. Now, if you're looking for the first truly masterful performance of McGregor's career, his absolutely flawless win over Ivan Buchinger is a good place to begin. This was the fight that made him a double champ in Cage Warriors. It was the fight that forced the entire MMA world to sit up and take note. And most importantly, this was the win that got him his UFC contract. Conor butchered Buchinger in the most perfect one-round display imaginable. Every feint was working, every shot was landing, and Conor's ability to mix it all together was insane to watch unfold. The stabbing front kicks, his rapid head movement, the looseness of his movement. It was very clear from this bout alone that McGregor was UFC ready. And when the finish eventually came, it was the patented left-hand shot that sealed the deal. As dominant as it gets. But now, we're at the UFC chapter of Conor's career. Or, in other words, the part where things get really good. The promotion didn't do McGregor any favors with his first fight, setting him up against a decent test in the 3-0 Marcus Brimage, an in-form fighter. Star was born. We jump forward to 2014 next, in a collision with the number 5 ranked Dustin Poirier, a man who would eventually go on to play a major role in Conor's own future and the future of the sport as a whole. But at the time, nowadays, we know Dustin as one of the most durable lightweights on the planet. But during his days at 145 pounds, his ability to take a shot was not there. And when Conor started talking to him, you just knew that the killing blow was not far behind. A swift shot grazed the back of Dustin's head. A legal blow, not an intentional back-of-the-head striker. And from there, Poirier was dealt with easily. Another sub-2-minute knockout for the Notorious. And with that, his place in the 145-pound top 5 was sealed. UFC 189 might not have featured the originally scheduled bout between Conor and the great Jose Aldo, as expected, but the fight we did get in the end truly delivered. Short-notice switch-ups are always going to be a pain, and unbeknownst to us, McGregor had torn his ACL mid-camp, making the prospect of training incredibly difficult, especially for a wrestler. But when Aldo was forced out just over 2 weeks before the event, Conor didn't hesitate before accepting a replacement in the form of the number 1 ranked wrestler, Chad Mendes. For instead of skills to the table than Aldo, was expected to challenge Conor's takedown defense and bottom game like no other. And on fight night, that's exactly what happened. Sure, Conor was largely chewing him up on the feet, but every time McGregor was taken down, he basically had no answer for Chad's powerful top game. And in coming in the second round, there was a feeling in the air that Mendes had finally cracked the code, that the McGregor fairy tale was about to come to an end. But after taking major punishment in that second round, Conor escaped a guillotine attempt, reversed position, stood up, and began opening up on Chad in those final seconds. From the brink of being finished, it was now Conor who was dishing out the punishment, mixing up body kicks with slick boxing to finish Mendes with just a couple of seconds left in the round. A legendary moment, and one that made Conor a household name. But if you're looking for the true breakthrough for McGregor, his matchup with Jose Aldo became one of the biggest fights in the atmosphere. At the time, Jose, a run that had seen him establish himself not only as the greatest MMA featherweight of all time, but also as one of the sport's finest ever fighters. Even for an athlete as talented as Conor, the idea of him beating Aldo was a tall order. But on UFC 194 Fight Night, all of the tension that had been building between these 245-pound elites came out in the most dramatic way possible. Conor didn't just beat Jose Aldo on that night. He destroyed him, changing our entire perception of the man by blitzing through him like he wasn't even there. It took about 10 seconds for Conor to drop Aldo with his signature counter left hand, and the follow-up shots could have forced the bout to be called off at 12 or even 11 seconds. But in the end, it was a record-breaking 13-second knockout, the fastest championship KO in UFC history, a record that still stands to this day. Next up, we jump forward to Conor McGregor's 155-pound debut in the UFC. It was the first time McGregor had fought at lightweight since his domination of Ivan Buchinger in Cage Warriors. But coming into this one, he had just spent 2 fights up at 170, going 1-for-1 with Nate Diaz. This seemed like the perfect weight class for Conor's natural build. And with the legend Eddie Alvarez in front of him, it seemed like we were about to get a very good read on just how well McGregor could do as a lightweight. But man, even Conor's biggest fans must have been surprised at how easy he made this look. It seemed like his left hand had a magnetic attraction to Eddie's chin. Conor barely missed on this night, dropping Alvarez multiple times in each of the 2 rounds the fight lasted. His speed, accuracy, and timing were just too much for the underground king, and by the time the 4-punch combo that got Eddie out of there landed, it almost seemed like a merciful stoppage. One of the most one-sided title beatdowns you will ever see. And with that, the champ was born. And finally, we come to the most recent victory on the resume of Conor McGregor, a win that came in the closest thing to a tune-up fight that Conor is ever going to get. After a string of inactivity and personal issues following his loss to Khabib Nurmagomedov, Conor was given a relatively easy fight against Donald Cerrone to get him back in the swing of things. Cerrone was in the middle of a tough spell of form, and though Conor needed a win, it seemed like the UFC was serving Cowboy up on a platter. But either way, Conor absolutely ripped through him with major style points. From the opening bell, those shoulder shots in the clinch smashed Cerrone's nose, bloodying before the bout had even reached 20 seconds. Then, after Cerrone's own attempt at a head kick failed, Conor nailed him with his own technique, catching Cowboy clean and starting off a brutal finishing sequence. 40 seconds was all it took. Maybe the cleanest win of Conor's UFC career. Because, hey, even Aldo landed a big punch as he was going unconscious. If you enjoyed these battles as much as we like compiling them, please subscribe and hit the like button. Trust us, you'll want to know about all the crazy stuff that's going to happen next.